Alright, well, the end of the Fast and Furious franchise is upon us. Kind of. They're hitting us with the old last movie is 2 parts trick, and even then I give it like 2 to 3 years max after part 2 before we see some kind of spin-off or reboot. If you're a fan of this series, you know it's pretty much 2 separate franchises actually. There's the first I'd say 5 movies where it starts off mostly being about cars and street racing culture, with the crew gradually getting more into higher stakes crimes and shifting from pure racing movies into more general action movies, culminating with Fast 5, my personal favorite in the series, which in my opinion was the perfect balance of both cool car shit and more traditional shoot 'em up style action, resulting in a super kick-ass movie. After Fast 5 though, and I really don't know who's responsible for this between the studio, the writers, or Vin Diesel himself, so I'll just say they. After Fast 5, they basically decided that now that they'd done high-octane globe-trotting action, they couldn't possibly tone it down ever again, and every movie since then has basically just been a crazy, huge-budget attempt to outdo the glorious spectacle that was Fast 5. The problem is that while on this path of trying to make each movie more insane than the last, they completely lost touch with what the series was about and essentially just decided from the 6th movie onward that every single member of the crew was magically a weapons expert, hacker, and black belt fighter now. 6 and 7 were still honestly enjoyable for me, even though it was clear they'd mostly given up on the racing and this was just a global espionage action series now. 8 was the first one where I was like, okay, there's fun to be had here, but I don't know if I'm really on board with this franchise anymore. And then 9 was, in my opinion, kind of a shit show disaster and easily the weakest in the series. So heading into Fast X, I didn't have much expectation, and although it did pretty much turn out to be exactly what I thought it would, I definitely do think that they stopped the skid here and Fast X is at least better than F9 was. That said, yeah, it's still pretty fucked. They've basically completely given up on explaining shit or even having a coherent story at this point. I'm dead serious when I say this movie presents almost as more of a compilation than an actual linear narrative story. We've got final season of Game of Thrones style editing here where dudes are just popping up on one side of the globe for an action sequence and then boom, they're somewhere else doing some other crazy shit one scene later and we have no concept of how they got there or how much time has passed. In a way, it sort of worked for the movie because like I said, with 8 and 9, they were still kind of asking you to hold on to some level of groundedness and keep track of the plot. But here they're basically directly telling you nah bro, don't worry about it, just shut off your brain and look at the cool explosions. There is one actual racing scene in this movie, which I love to see, but even then we only get 2 minutes in before it's aha, psych, there's bombs on all the cars. The movie generally looks pretty good with effects and pyrotechnics, but oh my god, there's this one scene at the agency headquarters where the 2 agents are looking at footage of Dom in what's supposed to be this ultra advanced video room, but it's basically just them standing in blackness with a bunch of floating screens CGI'd around them. Looked completely laughable. I was seriously wondering how it even got into the final cut of this movie without anyone calling it out. As far as the acting in this movie, I actually thought John Cena was really good despite his character having a ridiculous retcon intro in F9. I actually grew to like his character over the course of this one. That said, it was super weird how he wasn't in any scenes with any other characters. He was basically only with the little kid on screen. Wonder if that was just because of a schedule conflict or something. Speaking of the retcons, goddamn man, it is beyond egregious at this point. Literally the whole movie begins with them just adding new backstory to events that already took place, and then ends with them retconning their intro, which was already a retcon, to reveal that yet another brand new character that they just introduced this movie has actually been around since shit that happened 5 movies ago, pulling strings and plotting behind the scenes. On top of all that, at the end of the movie, minor spoilers kind of, I'm not gonna say who it is, but at the end of the movie, for the 4th or 5th time in the series, we get another reveal that a character who was supposed to have died several movies ago is actually alive and well. I hope that they're at least somewhat just having fun with it at this point, and they don't actually think they're dropping these galaxy brain twists on the audience, because even as a pretty big fan of this series, the writing is just beyond stupid at this point. Overall, I'm just gonna call this mid because I really don't even know how to evaluate this. I would need to sit down with the cast and producers in order to try and figure out how serious they were trying to be. Because as a serious attempt at an action movie, it's almost laughable. But if you look at it they know they jumped the shark already and are pretty much just taking the piss with these last movies, then hey, it's honestly kind of glorious. My gut instinct is that most of the people involved are pretty self-aware about the direction this series is taken, with the exception of Vin Diesel. Wouldn't surprise me at all if that dude was out there right now trying to legitimately plan an awards campaign for this shit. Anyway, that's all I got. If you like the last couple Fast and Furious movies, you'll like this one too. And if not, well, nothing's really changed, so you know what you're getting into. Drop a like and subscribe if you got a second, and let me know in the comments which movie in this series you have ranked number 1. Like I said, for me personally, it's Fast 5, but I've definitely got a huge soft spot for Tokyo Drift too. And yeah, I'll catch you on the next review. Have a good one. Peace.